Good.
Everyone signed in?
Nah,
Okay. Well, my name is Lee Hudden, and this is,
I'm Jenny Harris.
we are here today to, come on in.
walking around.
Okay. We're glad you're here today. We're going to talk about depth of knowledge. I just want to kind of take a survey and say, how many of you have heard of depth of knowledge, DOK? Okay. All right, so really and truly, we're going to kind of do this is very much an introductory type of learning that we're going to do today. But when you leave, you'll have enough information to take this back and really begin to grow it in your own classrooms. I kind of think of depth of knowledge as being the key, the one key that we have right now. It's not a silver bullet, but I kind of call it a silver BB, I guess, between our instruction and our assessments, standardized assessments. It's the one thing that's common that we know. And so our instruction kind of sits right here in the middle. We've got standards, we've got our assessment, but we've got our instruction in the middle. So what we want to do, depth of knowledge, is going to help us to kind of draw that red thread all the way through. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And again, my name is Lee Hudden. I'm actually with ARI, Alabama Reading Initiative, but we have done some training with DOK, so we're kind of going around supporting schools with this information. So I hope today when you leave, you're going to be able to say, I can take this back and incorporate it to my instruction. You've got an article. I'm going to ask that you not read your article yet. It looks like this. That's okay if you flip through it some. It's hard not to. But I want you just to hang on to this. I'm going to put it to the side. You've also been given a copy of your PowerPoint. This is nice just to take notes because if you're like me, I remember it when I'm there, but when I leave, I need something to kind of jog my memory as to what it looked like. So, all right, let's get going here. Depth of knowledge. We're going to analyze each level of Webb's depth of knowledge. There's actually 4. How many of you are familiar or have you ever heard of Bloom's taxonomy? Okay, that's the general consensus. Most of us have heard of Bloom's. Webb's is different than Bloom's. So we're going to kind of talk about a little bit of the difference between DOK and Bloom's taxonomy. You're going to discuss how to use this tool to plan your instruction with a focus on rigor and relevance. How many of us have heard of rigor and relevance? That's been a key word, hasn't it? Well, DOK helps us to do that. All right, I want you to think for a moment. I've got quick right here, but one of the key factors with DOK, it's about complexity, not difficulty. In the past, a lot of times we focused our questions on being difficult. We think of our standardized assessments as having more difficult questions. Well, really and truly, we've moved with our new standards and with our rigor, we're moving to thinking about complexity. So I want you just to think for a moment, what is the difference between complexity and difficulty? Talk to the people at your table. What do you think the difference between complexity and difficulty is? He can pull up here. Would you sit here?
It's very articulate.
All right, what are your thoughts? Someone share what you're thinking.
I think we came complex, took a lot of steps, a lot of integral things working together. Difficult was just freaking hard.
Okay, all right. Difficult, just freaking hard, and complex, he said, probably incorporates a lot of steps. Okay?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
That's pretty much the same thing you just said.
Okay.
There's ways to figure out complex, and you got 100 different ideas and ways to figure it out, but it can be done. difficult, it's just, you know, brain is too, you know, you can't register how to do what's difficult.
Okay, all right, good thinking. Let me give you a kind of an example or a definition of easy versus difficulty, okay? A question is easy if most of you can answer the question, then it's considered an easy question, okay? If I give you a question where most of you cannot answer the question, that's more of a difficult question. Not necessarily complex, but difficult. Okay? For example, let's think about this. If I said 4 plus 4 equals 2, and then I said 40 plus 40 equals 80. 400 plus 400 is? Okay. I'm going toward more difficult math, correct? It's getting more difficult. It's not complex. I'm going from easy to more difficult. But that's not complex. Okay? Complexity really refers to the cognitive demand that's required for you to come up with an answer that's deemed acceptable. So think about that. The cognitive demand that's required to come up with an acceptable response. Okay? What I want you to do is I want you to write now for me, instead of doing a quick write for this, I want you to jot down and think to yourself, you're going to write a question for our next Miss America pageant. I want you to jot down, think about it, we want this,
We don't have to
you
call out
Miss
the winner, do
America, huh?
we? We don't have to announce the winner, do we?
No.
As a winter with all this beautiful hair.
But I want you to think about it, because we're going to discern if it's complex or if it's difficult. The more we learn about DOK, we'll review this at the end, and we're going to see if it's a complex question or just a difficult question. So I want you to jot down a question for our new Miss America.
But couldn't something be complex for some people or difficult for some people or not another person?
That's a great question. In what case would that happen maybe?
Or wherever your strong suit is. So my question, Miss America, would be, how would you attack a bear defense? Well, if I ask you that, you probably wouldn't know either.
You're
But if I
right.
ask him, it's not complex, or not
But it would be
difficult.
difficult and complex to ever come in.
Depends how big they are.
I want you, that's a great question. Have you heard what he's posed? Basically, you're saying, is the fact that I'm bringing more background knowledge to this, does it make it less complex for me? Okay. I want you to hold on to that. I want you to hold on to your question because we're going to go through and we're going to learn about the different levels of DOK. And as we go through that, you're going to kind of begin to understand a little bit more about complexity. Because some things that are difficult, we think are complex. Simply because, too, we may not have the background knowledge for it. But we're going to learn what levels are assigned to each DOK, which helps us discern the complexity. Alright? So, let's move along. Alright, here's a good definition. Difficulty is defined as a thing that's hard to accomplish, deal with, or understand. Complexity refers to what? The mental processing that must occur in order to answer a question, perform a task, or generate a product. Alright, now, we've kind of done this. We've talked about the kind of thinking involved in a task. But I want us to read this. The DOK levels describe the kind of thinking involved in a task, not the likelihood that the task will be completed correctly. Remember earlier we talked about something that's easy, everybody could probably answer it. Something that's difficult, most of you probably can't answer it. Doesn't mean it's complex. If I said, who was our 16th president of the United States? Most of us probably know the answer to that. That's easy. If I said, who was the seventh president? maybe not, probably most of you don't know that. And so that makes it more difficult, not complex though. Alright. You've got a little sorting. You and the partner, you've got two sorting things. Let's see, they're kind of clipped together. Before we learn about our levels, it looks like this. You're going to work with a partner. Okay? I want you to sort with your partner. I want you to sort these activities into 4 different levels. Now you may have more than one thing in each level. But you're going to sort them. Alan, make sure you hear my directions.
She's trying to get your attention.
You're going to sort these into 4 different, good morning, into 4 different levels. We don't know what these levels are yet. I just want you to think about how would I sort these if I was sorting them into levels 1, levels 2, levels 3, and level 4. So take a few minutes to do that with your partner. Okay, I want you to leave your sort for right now, but we're going to, as our learning grows, we're going to revisit our sort. All right, so complex would be, and I may have said this, I couldn't remember if I did or not, but complex would be how many ways can I represent the number 4? That's more of an example of complex thinking. So as we dive into these different levels, I want you to really be thinking about this difference between difficult and complex, okay? Because that's kind of what DOK pivots on to me. That's the distinguishing factor. We're also going to talk a little bit more as we go along the way about the verb, how the role of the verb that it plays in DOK. Because we know in Bloom's, everything is guided by the verb. I know that if I'm identifying something, that's much easier than analyzing. So that verb really kind of tells me where the level is in Bloom's. But that's not the case with DOK. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that as we go along. All right, you've got your article now. This is a well-known author. It's by Hess. We call it the Hess article. So what I want you to do is open up, and I want you to read page 4 and highlight what stands out to you. Page 4. All right, let's take a minute to share out. We've heard some good conversation. What are you thinking? What are you noticing about DOK so far? What did you take away from page 4?
The levels of knowledge that for each standard, just you can teach that same standard, but there's levels to each standard to make sure you're teaching in different modes to reach every student.
Okay, all right. So we can take the standard and we can advance it or challenge it and create a higher level of thinking with that. Is that what you're saying? All right.
Or lower if needed.
Or lower if need, okay? All right. I want to hold on to that thought too. Because here's my wondering as we learn more about this. Are DOK levels sequential? In other words, do we need to start with a level, do we need to scaffold these? Do we start with a level 1 and then move into a level 2, then a level 3?
Depends on the student. You got honors class, you start.
Okay.
One stage, now it's gonna be here, the other one now it's gonna be here, so you gotta pay attention.
All right. Okay, that would be the case if DOK levels are sequential in nature, but what if they're not?
It all goes back to the ability
It goes back, what now, say it again?
ability group. You gotta teach the kids where they are and all to them be successful. Which, teachers gonna put more work on you.
Okay.
To
So-
go in at, say, level 3, when you got kids at level 1, it's not gonna work.
All right, I'm thinking about that. It says if you've got kids at a level 1, bringing them in at a level 3 is not going to work.
and we can't track our students anymore, put them in based on ability.
Okay.
So that poses a problem.
All right, let me give you an example of a kindergarten question. And this is kind of maybe jumping ahead a little bit, but I want you to be thinking about this as we learn more about DOK. I asked a group of kindergartners I showed them 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay? For kindergarten, we would think that's probably not necessarily easy, maybe not difficult, but it's more advanced, right? Then I gave them a word problem. And I was showing them how to draw the word problem out. And I said, at Thanksgiving, I said, I'm an Indian. I am out in the woods and I see, I see 2 rabbits and 2 rabbits. And I'm drawing the rabbits. And I said, so how many rabbits do I have? And I'm showing them 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay. Then I thought, I'm going to challenge this, but I'm not sure they can get it. So I gave them a story and I said, I'm an Indian and I'm out in the woods and I see, I think it was 12 footprints. They're rabbit prints. How many rabbits did I see? What do you think they said? You think they had one answer?
No, they said 12.
They probably said 12, because you saw 12 prints.
Would that be an acceptable answer, 12?
For kindergarten.
No, not for kindergarten, not even for kindergarten.
You got to leave them.
An acceptable answer would have been what? 3 rabbits. Okay. Guess what? I got the answer 3. I got the answer 6. I got the answer 4. Those are all acceptable. Do you know why? They explained, they said, you can have 2 of them. I had some of them hopping like this, and then some were hopping like this, and then 2 were hopping like this, and the other were hopping like this, and they drew it out. That's complex thinking. Okay, so, and again, thinking about this difficult and complex. I came in at a very high level. Okay, but they were able to do the lower level math, right? But this was a much higher level coming in. It's coming in at a higher level. So I want you to think on that. Do we always have to? Do we have to scaffold that? Not necessarily. All right, I want you to turn to page 5 now. And I want you to read page 5 in your handout. I actually want you to read 5, but I want you to read the first bullet only. Read just bullet 1. Go ahead and read bullets 1 and 2.
I didn't like
All right, so you had a chance to read 1 and 2. What did you learn? Can you define proficient? Where do we get the definition of proficient? Where would we find that?
Live in the State Department.
I wish that they had all those answers, but I'm not sure that we
They can give you a level, say it was proficient.
Well, yeah, the reason why
why I'm asking this question is, are we defining proficient as, using your rabbit story, there are 6 rabbits? Or there are 4, if there is a right answer to that, is proficient based on being able to do the math to get the right answer, or is proficient being able to think about how to justify your answer? Which way is proficient?
Is it how to think about it or how to justify it?
Justifying is thinking about it.
Yes, I agree
Right,
with
so
you.
is that proficient? Or is actually coming up with a math resolution? No matter how you get that math resolution, coming up with the right answer, is that proficient? How are we defining proficient?
I think you look to your standard for proficiency. Your standard is going to give you your definition of proficient. What are you thinking? That's a great discussion. What are your thoughts? Deemed proficient. It has to be deemed, yes, proficient would be correct. But oftentimes, there's more than one correct.
What about students that
Way
get
of
the correct
doing-
answer?
way of doing
Yeah,
it.
they get the correct answer, but can't explain how they got it.
For some,
So is that
just
proficient?
right.
I mean, is that proficient?
Not necessarily.
I'm being
Is
honest.
that,
I really wanna
is
know.
that proficiency?
If they can get the answer, but cannot justify how they got the answer.
If that is what is deemed, if that is deemed in the task, is that is part of your task, then,
Or your grading skill. That's the bottom line. Proficiency is based on your expectations of the group.
what's deemed acceptable or asked for in your standard or task or objective. And we're gonna we'll read a little bit more about this later on. But those are great questions that you're beginning, once you start thinking through this lens of complexity, these are the questions that start coming up. And we broaden our thinking about the type of instruction that we're providing. All right, read bullet 2 or 3. Just read 3. What are you thinking? What is this telling us?
So that's proficient. I got it down. We don't have to have answers.
Well, Ms. Johnson and
Well,
I, we felt like we were
sometimes-
doing this already, and we didn't know we were doing this already. That's our enlightenment.
So tell me a little bit more. What are you?
But going back to what I said a second ago about the rubric, you already have the levels of the depth of knowledge if you set up your rubric, you know.
Say from 1 to 5, and 5 being the highest expectancy, then 1 would be the lower one, but all of it is acceptable.
Proficient on different levels.
Yeah.
But
But you
then
want them to reach level 5.
But then that equates into a grade, you see.
And do we know what level 5 looks like?
It would encompass all of them.
Let's hold that in our thinking and let's go along. We'll revisit that when we come back. I think you're definitely thinking in through a different lens. All right, read bullets 4 and 5. All right, what did you learn? What did you learn? You asked about DOK and how we assign proficiency. What do we look at for that? We look at the what? The mental processing that's required by the performance described in the objective or task. So you're thinking, like you said earlier, you're really thinking about the thinking that's going on, the type of thinking that has to occur for this task. So when we're thinking through this lens of DOK, we want to think about the mental processing required. Now, the last bullet talked about the verb. What did you learn about the verb? The verb alone is not what we're looking at. It's what comes after the verb. Okay? Let me give you a good example.
It's telling you what the middle process
We've done this, we've done this.
All right.
I thought I had an example up here. Let me give you an example. I'm going to use the verb describe. Okay? Listen to this. This is an example of describe, of using a verb, but I'm going to use it at every level. You said there are 4 different levels, right? Okay? Describe the number of apples you see in this picture. That would be simple recall, right? Describe photosynthesis.
What page are we on?
I'm just giving you an example.
Okay, I'm looking for that and I'm like,
That
I
has to
see
be
this.
two, that has to be two. I mean, that's got skills and concepts that you gotta know something.
I agree with you.
Right.
But if I was thinking about my past knowledge of blooms, I'd say describe is kind of sort of a low level, right?
Right,
But
but now you're saying.
now
it's
I'm
not
thinking about the
necessary.
process.
See, I always knew that. Okay. Keep going, I'm with you now, keep going.
I'm thinking about the mental processing required, not just the verb. Okay, let's keep going. What if I said describe how 2 political parties are alike and different?
Okay, now that's extended thinking. I'm sorry, you have just jumped right here.
But I'm still using
I know, you're
describe,
still
the
using
low-level
describe.
verb, right? What if I said, describe a plan of action for building the economy of a post-war society?
Okay, that's great, that's strategic.
That'd be extremely difficult. I'm out. I would need some
Then again, I
serious
think it
help.
depends on where that person is coming from.
Yeah, what have you been taught?
I agree with you. I agree with you. And you have children coming with different backgrounds?
Different
Well,
interests, that
sort
makes a
of.
difference.
It does.
I mean, it makes a difference depending on what you like. I mean, I hate.
That's why I was gonna say, how would you
history period.
determine the correct response on a description? Because my description is gonna vary, but who has the right one?
You would have to develop a rubric for
Right.
yourself.
When I was in college, they asked me to describe how a poem, to me, what a poem meant, and then I failed it. I've yet to figure out how I felt something that I described what I felt like.
Your interpretation.
So now, I mean, that makes grading easier because whatever they write has got to be right, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, it's determined by your objective and standard. What is deemed proficient by your objective, task, or standard, and standards.
Okay, so you tell them to describe photosynthesis. That's just wide open. So that could be level 2, right?
So you as the professional, you have to come up with a rubric that says, what do I, if this is a 5th grader,
Your description must include.
what is required of a 5th grader to really give me a good example of photosynthesis? What
Okay,
is
but
required of a 10th grader?
previously we've also been told that if you don't have everything in that question, you know, then it's not fair to grade them on that. So I would have to include in my described photosynthesis all of the things that I need for them to talk about,
I
right?
have a rubric, yeah.
Okay, well,
Need a rubric.
that bumps that right down to 1.
No, I disagree.
No.
You're thinking about, you're thinking of, it's the mental processing required. Okay, I want us to really focus today on questioning, okay? You're getting into grading, which is, I understand, as teachers, that's kind of where we get stuck. But we've got to bite this off one little piece at a time. We've got new standards. We've got children who think at a very low level. We have instruction that is at a very low level oftentimes. Our assessments are at a very high level. So we've got to bridge this gap. We've got to teach children how to think. They're not going to learn to think unless we are posing questions at a higher level. So that's what DOK helps us learn to do. It helps us draw that thread from our standard to instruction to assessment. As we go along and learn more about this, I promise the pieces will begin to connect for you. All right? So,
The problem is, this has to start earlier than high school.
absolutely.
By the time we get to high school, they're set in their ways, and there's only so much of this that we can teach them and honestly still cover the standards and what we're supposed to. I mean, this has to start way earlier than high school.
It does, but I'm also thinking I can ask a kindergartner a level 3 and a level 4 question. I can pose level 3s and 4s to my kindergarten students instead of ones. We're thinking of questioning still in terms of levels and sequential. DOK is not sequential, and that's what. And I don't want to jump ahead of what you're doing, but let's go into getting into the knowledge of each level, and this will filter out for you because it's hard to get away from level 1 is this, level 2 is easy. I've got to, because we've been taught to scaffold, okay, and also we've been taught that the verb is what drives our leveling, and it's not. You've got to think about the complexity. Yes.
Yeah, just in response to Ms. Eastrich, her comment, she's right. It does start on the lower level, and we're doing this training on every level, by the way. So does everybody.
Good point.
Okay, can I just ask a question? So what are you asking us to throw out the scaffolding idea and learn something? I mean, is that really what this is about today? Throw out that scaffolding idea, or are we still scaffolding, but just in a new way?
Throw out the scaffolding.
Yeah.
No, okay, let me ask you this. The example of my kindergarten student.
Right.
Do you see where I posed, okay, my objective was addition. I posed the question and I explained to them, okay, boys and girls, 4, I'm gonna draw 4 feet here, 4 plus 4 equals, see on count is 8. It's typically how we do that. We model it,
Right.
okay? I didn't do that. I gave them an authentic problem. They solved the problem by using pictures and came up with different answers that were all correct.
So we're at Mr. 1.
They came at it from a much higher level of thinking because of the way I posed that question. They accomplished the task of addition, but they came at it from a higher level
So you
and
are saying
produced
we're not
higher levels
scaffolding.
of responses.
This is not scaffolding, is what you're saying.
It's scaffolding by you modeling.
DOK levels, yes, we're not talking, they don't have to be scaffold in progression. You don't have to do a 1 before you do a 2. You can come in at level 3 and hit the other levels. Just because I asked that question I gave them was probably more of a level 2. But I also incorporated, it covered level 1 too.
So it's all about teaching them how to think outside of the box. That's what
It's also based
How
on,
to think.
Yeah.
And we
it's
have
not
to pose
just-
instruction by thinking about what processes are required. Do they just have to recall something? Do they have to come at, and we're gonna learn about that
So
as we
we're
go through
gonna
the
get
levels.
away from the immediate recall, regurgitating information.
Say it again.
We're getting away from regurgitating information.
So more open-ended questions.
Thinking, that thinking process must be engaged.
All right, so I'll pass this on over.
All right. For those that don't know me, I'm Jenny Harris. I teach English at the Freshman Academy. I have attended the first DOK training workshop with Lee, and so it was a day-long workshop. I am no expert, but luckily we have somebody who knows much more than I do here with us. And I can kind of give you a perspective, maybe more from a classroom teacher's point of view. What this DOK, all your questions are the same questions that we had the day that we attended this training. How do you teach a student who can't do a level 1 to do a level 3? I don't understand how this is going to work. But that's not really that's not really the point of this. The point of this is to challenge you in your instruction to take a level 1 question and make it a level 2. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through all 4 levels with you, and there are examples of activities of every level. And you're gonna see that there are things you're doing in your classroom now that are a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, and maybe even a level 4. All right, but you're also gonna see that there are a lot of opportunities for you to make that level 1 a level 2, or to make the level 2 a level 3. And that's what we were challenged to do as we left that training, and that's kind of what we're looking for you guys to do too. It's just, we're not saying take every level 1 and make it a level 4. We're saying, if this is a level 1 that you're teaching at now for this particular concept or question, can we push it to a level 2? If it's a level 2, can we push it to a level 3? And that's really what we're looking for here. We're not looking into, I haven't gotten to grading yet, Ms. Bird. So I haven't even, you're thinking way further ahead even than I have gotten. I'm looking at my instruction.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just saying, I'm looking at my instruction, my lesson planning. When I'm in the classroom with these kids, what can I do to increase the levels? And so, like I said, as we go through the examples and all, you're really gonna see there's a lot of stuff that you are doing. And you may see, whoa, I do a lot of level 1, maybe I should be doing more level 2. Or I do a lot of level 2, wow, a graphic organizer, that's only this level, I thought it was this. Okay, so there's gonna be a lot of kind of aha moments for you as teachers that I had as well. So, all right. Yeah, so let's go ahead and look at our 4 levels. Level 1 is simply recall and reproduction. All right, so this is, define this term, 1 answer questions. We do this a lot. I teach daily grammar practice in my classroom. I noticed I do a lot of level 1, all right, with this. Level 2 is skills and concepts, so it's a little bit more difficult. We're making them think a little bit more, but it's still not that difficult, all right? Level 3 is strategic thinking. This is where they're really going to have to start to think about how you answer a question. This is where we get into there being more than one answer, more than one right answer to a question, all right? And then there's level 4, which is extended thinking, and this one we'll see is a long-term planning kind of thing, okay? All right, so first thing we're going to do is, go back to kindergarten a little bit, we're going to do some paper folding so that you guys will have a place to take some notes and also to kind of apply this to a concept or a skill that you teach. So we are going to make a Frayer model. So first thing you want to do is fold your paper in half vertically, to use the academic language and not the hot dog hamburger. All right. Then you'll also want to fold it again, this time horizontally.
You know, hot dog hamburgers, academic language.
Hey, I know. My students are like, vertically, what is that? I'm like,
Hot dog hamburger.
hamburger, all right? All right, and then you want to just fold in this corner where they meet. Okay, so not the outside corners, but the corner where it all meets in the center. Just find you a good spot, it doesn't have to be huge, and just dog ear it, so to speak. Right, so that you end up with a little diamond in the center. Okay? Then you'll unfold it, and it will look something like this.
At this point, all the students are saying, how big does that have to be? How much do we have to write in there?
Well, and we use Frayer models a lot in my classroom, so once you get through it the first time, usually they understand after that, but, and you can just lay it back out, if you want to trace the lines out for yourself, however you like to do it. I'm a very visual learner, I drew pictures and all kinds of stuff on mine to help me remember. But basically what we're going to do is each one of these quadrants is going to be for a level. So level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Okay? And in the center, I want you to think about a topic, okay, a subject or a unit of study that you focus on in your content area. So something that you'll be teaching, maybe what you're teaching when we come back, or what, tomorrow? Something we taught in the fall. Just one concept that you teach. Okay? And just jot it down in the center. This is just a way for you guys to kind of apply this to something that you teach so you can kind of see how it's going to work.
Alexander, we're going to need to shower calls on this one.
I'm sorry, what?
Me and you might need to shower calls on this one.
label this?
You can do it whatever you want. Or grab an organizer.
So,
Yeah, we can do it on the top. Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a great way. We actually really thought a lot about that plans because we thought that would be one of the more challenging areas to apply this, and there's actually a lot that you can
Everybody does that. Thinking is laid out.
That you teach.
Speed limit, stop sign, and the skill is on here, it says the cognitive thinking. In driving, the cognitive thinking is already laid out for you. The rules are there, what to do. Your skill is complex, not your, because, say, I've been on the road with a lot of people who are not very cognitive. I mean, when I drive a lot of kids, they'll put everybody that are not very cognitive thinking, their skills, they have skills.
so scary, yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, you know, it's laid out for you.
No, what was sad is
All right, looks like everybody's got their concept and their papers labeled. So let's go ahead and look at level 1. So if you will turn in your article to
I think it's page 6 maybe.
page 6.
Yeah, that's about all you can do.
Alright, try not to read ahead, but I want you to look at these sections on page 6. So look at the introduction, the verbs, the teacher role, and the student role for level 1. Alright, so read through this quickly, underline, think about some things that stand out to you. Don't look at the products just yet, alright?
Now, what are
Just
we
the
reading,
top.
that or an article on here?
Level 1 in the Hess article, page 6.
I'll draw you kind of a visual. This part right here.
So just look at what level 1 is, the verbs, the teacher role, and the student role.
You've got the points.
All right, somebody share kind of what your thoughts are on level 1. What did you guys talk about?
You see what I'm saying?
What stood out about level 1?
That's the basic stuff that we all grew up on. Reading, writing, arithmetic, real estate, you know, it's basic.
Old school, right? Level 1 is old school. Basic recall, all right, what else?
About boundaries
I'm sorry?
in PE, like boundaries, what you can and can't do.
Okay, boundaries, rules, good. Anybody else?
The age of consent.
Okay.
Talk about sex.
All right, from the counseling perspective, we've got age of consent, right? Laws,
Define it.
yeah. Defining, that's a good one. We all do probably some sense of vocabulary in our instruction, right? So definition of terms. Okay. Anything else? All right, good. What I want you to do next is I want you to look at the possible products and potential activities. That's at the bottom of page 6 and top of page 7. And I want you to underline or put a little star next to any of the activities that you do in your classroom on a consistent basis. Is everybody done highlighting? Okay. What did you notice as you were doing that? Anybody did anything kind of stand out to you as you were highlighting activities?
A lot of DCP.
For my fellow English teachers, there's a lot of DGP in there. Yes. Anybody else? I know for me personally, in being transparent, you can see what I highlighted.
Were you calling?
Quite a bit. All right. So I'm doing a lot of level 1 in my classroom. Okay. Some of you maybe not so much, but I know for me it was kind of a, oh, okay, these are all just a level 1. I thought maybe this might be a level 2, or, you know. So it kind of surprised me. One thing I wanted to highlight though, and some notes that Lee made up here, with level 1, you know it or you don't. Okay? There is just one right answer with level 1. All right? The definition of theme. Okay? There's one right answer. All right? One possible answer, and the answer doesn't need to be solved or figured out. It's really just, okay, we've drilled this. We know this is what you do. This is 2 plus 2 is 4, right? Okay? So that's level 1. And that's where a lot of us, unfortunately, I think, tend to stop. Okay? Me personally, like I said, a lot of this I went, whoa, okay, parts of speech, that's a level 1? Or, you know, because my students still struggle with these things.
Decoding words.
Decoding words. I mean, these are things that we do every day in our classrooms, and our students do struggle with level 1s. So I had that same question, how do you give a student who can't do a level 1 a level 3 task? All right, and we're going to see how that's possible as we continue. All right, is there anything else you wanted to add to the level 1? Okay. All right. So what does level 1 look like? And I think we've already kind of covered a lot of this. But we're going to talk about some questions for reading and for math. Okay, so some potential questions for each. So for reading, and this is a 4th and 5th grade question, what sickness is breaking out among Mary's household? All right, so this is obviously from literature. This is from, I think, The Secret Garden. Or, how does Mary survive the cholera outbreak? All right, there's one right answer. Okay, I know some of you are looking at this like, what are you talking about? All right, math. Okay, this is where I say, what are you talking about? I think out of all of these questions, I got one of them right as we went through the levels during our training. So just a basic Algebra 1 question, what value of x makes this equation true? Okay, so this is just a one-step equation. Is that what you would call that? I mean, I'm not a math teacher.
I think there's multiple steps in it.
Multi-step.
It's multi-step, but it's still considered a level 1.
And why would that be a level 1?
I don't know, you tell me. I'm trying to
You
figure
just
it
plug
out.
in each answer until you get the right
Look back
answer.
at level 1
Because
notes.
there's only one right answer.
Well, you
One
got
right
to
answer.
step-by-step instructions, follow the
Step
formula.
by step.
That's all.
Right, it's a formula. It's a road, it's just recalling the formula, the root, and following the steps.
Yep, I had to solve it just to be able to do it.
So for me, I might have originally thought, well, that looks like a level 3. From an English teacher perspective, but that is just a level 1 question.
Now, thinking it, it's not, it might be difficult, but it's not complex. You gotta think of this through this lens of complexity, and it's hard to start changing your thought process over. But the mental processing required to solve that is a level 1, because it's just a formula.
Okay, how does level 1 connect to the Aspire? Okay, and this is really, these percentages are really, to me, were startling. Okay, so the percentage of DOK level 1 items that are on the Aspire for reading, somewhere between 14 and 24%. So this is just the average, all right, across all of the grade levels. Is that correct? Okay. And then math, only 5 to 16%. Okay. So a math teacher who's teaching at a level 1 every day, their students are not going to be prepared for the questions on the Aspire if only 5 to 16% of them are coming from level 1. Okay, so all of these numbers to me, like I said, as an English teacher, I really was like, whoa, okay, this is not where we need to be. All right, we need to start upping the levels. Okay, making connections to your content. So this is where I want you to add a question, all right, that you could pose in your content area, a level 1 question. So this, the concept that you put in the middle of your Frayer model. All right, Ms. Bird put photosynthesis, for example. Okay, what is a level 1 question you could ask about photosynthesis? All right, so look at your concept. Look at the examples that are in the Hess article. If you need some ideas, don't think about grading at this point. All right, think about instruction. All right, and then write down a level 1 question for your concept.
I want to bring out a point that, tell me your name again. Bird. She said, this is easy to grade, right? Because there's only one right answer.
Say that, what you said again?
She said, this is easy to grade because there's only one right answer, right?
But they just said the ACC and math part is only 50% level one.
We are gonna give.
But it's all one word answers. There's no two choices on the ACT.
Right or wrong?
The problem itself,
It's easy for someone that's already left.
we're gonna figure out why it's complex.
It's just that.
You
don't. Does anybody want to share what they put as their level one question?
Anybody?
Somebody get it wrong.
Well, yeah, Ryan and I worked that out different.
No, that's not true, that's what I'm telling you. There's always more than one way to work on it, especially if it's an exploring problem. You can use many different answers.
Just one answer.
There is just one answer, but you can get that one answer different ways.
All right, so everybody has their questions, their level one questions. Okay. All right, now I want you guys to look back at your sort. All right, based on just what we know so far, look at your sort, see if you want to revise it any. Based on what we know, what we've just looked at for the products and the potential activities for level one, do you need to change anything in your sort? So just quickly look it over, and then we'll move on. Okay. All right, now we're going to move on to level 2. So I want you to look at your article on page 10. So look back at the Hess article on page 10, and I want you to read just that short little paragraph at the top and keywords, teacher role, and student role. All right, so somebody tell me what stood out to you about level 2. What did you highlight?
Comparing, contrasting, cause and effect, and I was surprised at classify and sort with the level 2. I thought that was one.
Okay, classify and sort. Why do you think that that would be a level 2?
You have to have some kind of, you have to already have knowledge and kind of have a background knowledge.
Okay?
It is
When
more
you're
of an
classifying and
application.
sorting, right, you really have to think about relationships between different terms and things like that, right?
Right.
So we're talking about complexity, so that kind of brings us back to why that might be a level 2. Because you're really having to bring in, what do you know about each of these items? How do they relate to each other? So, but that's a great question. All right.
One thing I'm looking at, and I'm trying to write, like I wrote a question from level 1 for my class,
Okay.
and then a question for level 2. And it looks like I'm giving you the answer from level 1. Now you gotta do something with the answer. Does that
Okay.
make sense what I'm saying? The first thing I asked, what makes up the HTS? That's just to recall. Now I'm saying, classify where each item would go in this part of the HTS. So basically, you're giving them the answers. Now they gotta think about what would go from the level 1.
Okay. How do we use that answer? How do we use what we know about what is, I have no idea what HTS is. Okay, but how do we use what we know about HTS to classify it? Okay, so yeah, so that is definitely a
You're
level
giving them the
2.
answer from level 1, basically.
Okay, so you are, but now you're not necessarily going to be questioning them
What that
level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, right? That your question on Monday as a bell ringer may be a level 1 question, but your question on Tuesday could be a level 2 or even a level 3 question. Okay, because we're not just, like you said, we're not working through the levels. We're picking our questions on a day-to-day basis, right, and trying to just up the levels. All right, good questions and observations. All right, anything else that you guys feel really stood out for level 2? Anything, Lee, you think we should add?
Yeah, look at the very last one. It says, at this level, students are asked to transform and/or process target knowledge before responding. That's what you're talking about. And that was a great example, whoever you said that, of what you just said. So, really, you're taking something that you're recalling basically, and you're doing something with it. So you see how if I come in with a question at a level 2, I'm also encompassing level 1.
because they have to recall the concept first, then they have to transform it. All right, okay, so let's move on and look at possible products and potential activities. So go through, highlight, asterisk, whatever you want to use. The possible products, what are you using in your classroom today on a consistent basis? Which activities have you done in your classroom? Okay.
We're talking about level 2 or just things in general that we're going to reach.
So we're looking at level 2, so you're looking at page 11.
So what we're going to do out there.
Yeah, so just go through, highlight the things that you're doing today. Just go in and check off the ones that you know you
First
did.
of all, questions. So how do you
Dr. Zell, let's reverse engineering.
Okay, yeah, we're on the question.
Everybody looks
That would be engineering in the opposite direction.
Yes, that.
I'm gonna infer.
Is this engineering in terms of you have a building, is this real engineering, or is this just in terms of you have a product and now you break it down?
That's what I would think. I would think it would take something that's been already put together, so to speak, and then break it down.
So you can
How
have
it was
sentence
built.
and break it down. Are you okay?
That's what I would think.
No. Yes, yes, that's right. You're right.
You cover all of them, EDP.
Well, you could do reverse engineering with diagramming. Exactly. And that would make it a level 2 versus a level 1.
We do that on the test if you think about it.
Okay. What did you guys notice as you highlighted level 2, maybe in comparison to level 1?
We gotta ask you another question.
Okay.
What is that first one? Caption photo summary.
I would think that would be
Just come
looking
up.
at a photo and then giving it, summarizing it with a caption. What did you say, Lee?
Or it's maybe looking at, like in science, you have all the pictures and you have the captions underneath them and those tell you what the text is. So you look at just that rather than reading the text and you summarize the material for that.
Yeah, I think that would be, I think that's good.
4 pictures, 1 word.
4 pictures, 1 word. Okay, so did you highlight more or less than you did in level 1?
What?
Anybody want to
Oh,
volunteer?
I don't know.
I can tell you from mine, I definitely highlighted less at a level 2. Was anybody surprised to see that a graphic organizer was a level 2?
I know a lot of us.
Yes, I mean, we I think all have been taught the graphic organizer is king, right? And our students know the graphic organizers. I mean, I know my students do. They've been taught this graphic organizer stuff, right? So they may not do the Frayer model, but they did something different with their teacher before. And it's still a great tool. It's what we're doing right now. But I was surprised it was a level 2. I thought it took more thought. So that was something that I know was a takeaway for me was, oh, okay, graphic organizers are not that challenging. All right, how can I up the level? All right. So what does level 2 look like? Let's look at some questions for reading and math. Okay, here's a 4th or 5th grade question again from the Secret Garden. When does Mary discover that cholera has killed everyone in her home? All right, so you're asking a when question. So she maybe you have to go back and recall the story. Then you have to think about maybe the time period. Maybe you don't know exactly when, right? That's a level 2.
There's still only one right answer though.
There's still only one right answer. That's a very good observation. Maybe you should get details. You should have gone to the
I'm too slow.
No. All right, here's a math question, an Algebra 1 question. When a student subtracts 18 from a number, the result is a fourth of the number. What is the number?
Okay, wait a minute.
That one I did not get.
I put,
So would you agree that sounds like a level 2 question?
No,
You don't think so?
No.
Okay, tell me why.
I don't know. It just does.
It's more of a level.
Multiply multiply, it's the reverse. Multiply by 4.
Okay.
What's in the foot? No, that wouldn't work either.
Don't think about difficult, think about the mental
Oh, I'm not
process.
thinking about difficult, I just want to get the right answer. It's a puzzle.
But the right, the mental processing required to get an answer.
Oh, yeah, but you know what, that's complicated.
What's the answer?
Okay.
Understand subtract 18 from
That's
the
not
number, the result. of
From the
the
number, the result is equal to the number.
What's the number? What's the answer? 6?
Would you agree that this question is more complex than the math question we looked at for level 1? All right, we're looking at a word problem. All right, they're basically, it looks like asking you to do something in reverse, maybe.
Not.
The
What is
difference
the correct- did we say
between,
what the correct
We
answer
put all the math people in the other room.
the difference
24 is
between
correct
the,
answer for those of you that are doing the math.
the difference between that math problem and the previous one is that you had already had a multi-step equation given, and you just had to start for x, solve for x. This one, you gotta create the equation.
Right.
So it's gonna be 18 minus x equals, what's that fraction? 1/4. So it's gonna be 18 minus x equals 1/4 x. Then you solve for x.
X minus 18
And what's the answer?
is 6.
24.
The answer is 24.
I can't do it in my head.
And I only know that because it's on
I wanted to
mine.
add
But it says
that,
subtract
some of us have children and so forth, but
So that's why
my kids are in
18 good.
first grade, second grade, this is how their problems coming out.
So there
They have to
is
write the
complexity.
sentence. They have to read the problem and write.
Yeah, they have to come up.
They don't decide about the answer. They have to write the equation.
And as Ms. Burr brought up, again, we're looking at a question, there's just one right answer, right? There's just one right answer. All right, how does level 2 connect to the Aspire? So let's look at the Aspire questions, right? Reading, somewhere between 38 and 62%. Okay, that's a high number, all right? Math, 27 to 38. Still fairly, up to a third of the questions are gonna be at least a level 2, right? Level 1 was somewhere between 5% and 16%, all right? So those numbers, just kind of think about that as we go, all right? And then let's go ahead and make a connection. So if you haven't done this already, on your graphic organizer for level 2, write a question, a level 2 question that you could ask about the concept that you chose. And then after we finish this, you guys can take just a 5-minute break. All right, so level 3, page 14. What I want you guys to do, same as what we've done with all the other levels, if most of you have caught on to that, I think, at this point. Go ahead and read the paragraph at the top of page 14. Look over the verbs, the teacher role, and the student role. Okay, and highlight, make notes on your graphic organizer. What stands out to you about level 3? What type of demands or thinking, all right, complexity are we talking about with level 3? What did you guys highlight or notate?
Multiple possible outcomes.
Multiple possible outcomes. Very good. This is the first time we're seeing that, right? So we're going from questions in a level 1 or level 2 that they're either right or they're wrong, right? Now we're into level 3 where we've got multiple outcomes, okay? So that's definitely a difference as you get into level 3. What else did you notice?
Providing relevant supporting evidence.
All right? Having to support your answer with evidence, okay?
Real world problems.
Real world problems, and that's something that I know all of us in here that have attended every PD session know we need to be linking our instruction to real world. All right, those of you that teach in a real world concept like driver's ed, all right, you're doing that. But how are we linking English? How are we linking science to the real world? All right, what else?
I like the fact that we have to remember it's higher order thinking processes.
Okay.
So I immediately connect that with the open-ended questions.
Good. So your hot questions, your higher order thinking questions, okay? Open-ended, not anything that we're just expecting you to recall and spit out an answer.
All I can think of is Weaver's poem and how he felt about, this thing on how he felt about the poem, what he felt I mean, that's open-ended.
Well, it is open-ended, but then when you're, from an English teacher's perspective, right, there is always interpretation when you're talking about poetry, but there also is a lot of history that goes with poetry, so in a lot of your classes, sometimes you're taught the meaning behind the poem, what things mean, so there's always, you know, like I said, there's always that interpretation point, but then there's also the standard that you have to connect it back to and what you're trying to get at, right? So we get into grading and all that stuff there, which I'm not gonna go, I'm not going there right now.
So I think the question would have had to been a little more specific. Using the terminology that we have discussed,
Right,
how does this point make you feel?
but don't ask
Yeah, the
how,
teacher didn't
how,
ask
but if you
correctly.
ask, how do you feel,
Right.
then that's completely
Completely
your
different.
It's
opinion.
different, that's an opinion.
Right.
As an English,
You
as
read
an
the
English
question
teacher,
right.
I experienced
I got
that.
a
Doesn't it tell you something as
My
a
dad was a major, that didn't settle that.
I see where you're coming from. As a teacher, does it tell you something as far as formative assessment? What you used to do that, what you didn't use to do that? Does it tell you something? As the teacher, if you're asking a student to give you information about the poem, and I'm not saying that that's,
I can't
I'm saying the
remember, it was
teacher could have
26 years.
formulated that question a lot more clearly.
Detail, clarity.
But if I'm using formative assessment, that tells me a lot about that student who did use that terminology versus the student who didn't use the terminology who covered the instruction. So.
So whenever, yeah, anytime you're answering an open-ended question, you're looking for where, how are they bringing back the things that I've taught them?
And
How are they using what we've taught?
That's what I wanted to point out too, is one of the things that I have noticed through this is discourse and the emphasis on talking that we have to have in order to do this, in order to accomplish these levels of thinking. We have to have discourse in our classrooms.
So we need to teach, and here's the breakdown, because we need to teach listening skills.
Active listening.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. And I did that last year. I went and found information about active listening, and I taught my students what it meant back now. Did it make a difference? No, because it was just a once popping up. But this goes all the way back. If we do not teach kids, because they aren't having discourse at home. They don't sit down at the dinner table and discuss world events.
Absolutely right.
So it's impossible at this juncture to do anything other than try to initiate that talking in the classroom. So how do we incorporate the active listening to really get this to where it needs to be?
You have to figure out how to do it yourself.
I got an idea with the cell phone.
Yeah.
I do. I'm gonna try it out. It's gonna work. Can I share real quick?
Please, quick.
I got one of those hanging charts, you know, like from elementary school, and this numbered like my desk are numbered. I have a surge protector, if that's okay. And during class, I'm gonna encourage them to put their phone in there where their number is, so we can play Quizlet and things like that. And if you don't have your phone there, you don't get to do the game. They don't know what day we're gonna use the phones for the game, so if you don't put your phone there, you don't get to pull it out. If you pull it out during class and it's not in there, some type of consequence. But I'm gonna try it. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm gonna try it.
What about those that don't have phones?
They don't have to have them. If not, then they can either just look on to what else everyone else is doing, or I'll have some type of backup, or have it projected where everyone's involved. You know, and then if the media center has it where I can get the computers that day or the tablets that day.
There are some programs.
If they have a flip phone, you just don't get to use it. Sorry.
When you go back to that opening question, a lot of times when I'm asked an open question, a kid will answer, and it's not really the right answer, and you go, is it wrong to say no? Or what I usually do is go, okay, somebody else, give me something,
A little more.
a little bit more. I mean, or do you go, oh no, you told me wrong? But they're thinking,
Yeah, I usually compliment, oh,
Yeah.
I see how you got into that. That was what I
I've
was
never thought
looking
of
for.
it that way.
But you gave me another idea.
Yeah.
That's
I
what I
like
say.
your perspective. Now, who's thinking with me? Can we go further?
Well, but like she's saying, it does come back to discourse, and you are going to encounter those types of situations when you do talk to your students. You're going to have the off-the-wall questions and the things that are way out in left field, right? But we've got to get that they are thinking. So that's good, right? You get them talking, they're thinking, all right? The more you talk, hopefully you can get them to where they need to be with that particular answer that you're looking for.
Yeah, my thinking is, we can DOK, you can form DOK questions all day long. You can form high-level questions all day long. But if we're not allowing children to have discourse and modeling discourse, this isn't a discourse for that.
Because it is or it isn't.
All right, so level 3, some things I wanted to bring up, just so we make sure we cover them all. It demands the use of planning, all right? A level 3 question is hard to come by the seat of your pants. So I know what I found when I'm trying to plan my instruction is I have to write down some of these questions, okay? Same with higher order thinking. A lot of times you need to sit down and plan. What are the questions I'm going to ask my students? Obviously, you can always play on whatever they brought up, but it requires more planning than a level 1 or a level 2 in our questioning foundings. So keep that in mind. Let's see, we talked about real world problems, higher order thinking, more than one answer, evidence. Anything else you want to add?
It's more of a
Yeah,
debate.
it's focusing on understanding. I thought this kind of separated out of one text, one data set, one investigation, or one key source. So that makes me think you're going deep. You're taking one key source and you're really going deep into it.
So whether that is a literature book, an article on something you're doing in biology, whatever that is, okay, you're focusing in on one thing and you're really delving into it. All right. Okay, let's look at possible products and activities for a level 3. All right, so go through, check off, highlight things that you do in your class on a pretty consistent basis or on a yearly basis or whatever, projects and things like that. What are you doing that might be a level 3? What did you guys notice about level 3 as far as activities and products go? Are you guys doing any of these things?
You got real
Yeah. There's fewer of them.
Okay, there's maybe less than you saw at level 1, level 2.
Yes.
What's some of the things that you're doing in your classroom? Bird? What's one of the things you try?
Oh, conduct a critique and design investigation, analyze survey results.
Okay.
That's data, you know, from if you provide the results of an experiment and you ask them to analyze that to support whatever your concept is. Multi-paragraph essay or short story, yeah, they hate that. Play, book, music, or movie review. Yeah, we did that with, what was that movie? What's that movie? That Jones thing.
Osmosis
There you go.
Jones.
There you go.
Good.
They like that fact-based argument. Is this criticism supported by the historical facts?
Very good. And that's what you guys probably, a lot of you maybe saw debate come up in there, all right? This is a great one. I mean, that really could be used in any subject, okay? From a specific perspective, right? Maybe not a perspective that's normally yours. I know something that we have come across in our English department is a storyboarding website where you can go online and create storyboards. Storyboardthat.com, isn't that what it's called? Which is a great way to take a concept, a short story, something like that, have the students break it down, create their own, basically almost like a cartoon.
When you say
of that.
create, I know I'm jumping ahead, but that's going to another level, but besides creating them, they have them available, you can use someone else's.
Exactly. So there are all kinds of ways that we can be incorporating level 3s. It just takes some more thought. It takes not doing what we're always used to doing. And so for me, I know I've highlighted a lot less at level 3, but I also saw a lot of really good ideas on these in this article of things that I could be doing at a level 3.
And I want to revisit, remember, it's not about the verb, it's about what comes after that verb. Because I can create a picture of a letter. I can create an analysis report of a graph that I looked at. I can create a plan that demonstrates your understanding of biokinetics and its relationship to muscle rehabilitation. That sounded really good to me. That doesn't make any sense.
All right, let's look at what level 3 looks like. We were talking about specific questions. So reading. What does the narrator mean when he or she says, when people had cholera, it seemed they remembered nothing but themselves? Does Mary believe anyone will come for her? All right, so here we've got a 2-part question. All right, so already it's a little bit more complex. You're having to look at, infer some things, right? What does the narrator mean? Okay, so you're having to think a little bit higher. Again, this is just a 4th and 5th grade level question.
There's still only one right answer though. You could just say it different ways.
Can you approach it from different ways?
Are there different ways? That's a good. Are there different ways to get to that answer?
You could express the answer in different ways.
True.
Can there be different pieces of evidence that support your
Yes.
claim?
Yes.
So you can approach it from lots of different ways.
But there's still only one answer. If it's a story and there is an outcome, there is still only one answer. You're just supporting it with different evidence.
I disagree. I think that there can be different reasons.
I think there could be different meanings.
You may have to infer what those reasons are to justify it. You may have to be doing a lot of inferencing to justify it. Because it may not tell you why Mary did that. You may have to infer it.
On level 3, it better not tell.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, now there you go, back to your poetry thing.
All right, let's look at a level 3 math question. This is algebra 1. Jack, Luca, Tony took a quiz. Luca's score was 12 less than Tony's score and 3 times Jack's score. If Jack's score was 1/9 of Tony's score, what was Tony's score?
Listen, you say that when we was kids, and y'all probably the same thing growing up. There was all kind of little books where you'd say Joe is the brother of so-and-so, and somebody was the sister or the aunt of so-and-so, and Joe, and you had to figure out all the different combinations of, and who was the father.
Right.
All kind of books like that, little stories,
Yeah.
and those little highlighter, you know, those little
Yeah.
highlights. All kind of stories. So they were on level 3 then, and we tried to figure out who liked candy and who didn't like candy by,
And all the relations.
yeah.
So would you say you have to determine what's important in that?
Sure.
To solve it, you have to determine what's important, throw out what you don't need. Okay. That's so that being a level 3, that also encompassed level 2. And like I said, the 1.
And I know
There's
for me,
still only one right answer.
April does think about it.
It says possible outcomes.
Yes is just only one answer, but
Many different
that
ways
level
to
right
get
there
different ways to
requires a
get
whole lot more thinking than the DOK 2 example for the algebra.
it. And I could think
So it's
of
the
it a different way
complexity.
than you did.
It's a level of complexity.
and something Dr. Selden kind of brought up to us too during the break. We need to remember, we need to remember, I'm sorry, I hate to shush y'all. It's habit. But we need to remember why we're doing this, all right? We're a focused school, and Dr. Selden can maybe give us a little more information about the testing side. But we have to, in order to increase our scores on the ACT, the Aspire, the Plan, all of those things, we have to teach our students how to think more critically, more complexly. And so that's why we're going through this training, all right? It's not to make everybody teach at a level 4 or teach everything on a level 4, because that's very, very difficult to do. But it's to just help to get them to where they need to be. And we know we aren't going to work a miracle, you know, by the end of the year. But if we can start to incorporate this into our lessons, we can get them up to where they need to be. And the students coming after them to where they need to be.
And you don't want to get caught up so much in, is this a 3, this is a 2, this is a 1, is it, no, it's a 3, it's a 4, it's a 2, no, it's a, that's not, the magic in all of this is your conversation and the fact that you're wrestling with it and you're pushing your thinking, which is what we want students to do. So don't get so caught up in is this level 2 or level 3? Do get caught up in how do I advance the complexity of this question so that the mental processing is advanced. So I'm pushing that mental processing in my students.
All right, so speaking of testing, let's look at the Aspire. All right, percentage of DOK level 3 items. Reading, anywhere from 24% to 48%. So you're talking about, in some instances, half or almost half of the questions are a level 3. To me, that is astounding. All right, math, look at that number. 51 to 62%. So half of those questions are coming at them at a level 3.
Actually,
Are
it's
they ready?
more than half, because
More than
anywhere
half.
from 51 to 62%. We're giving the Aspire for the first time this year on the 10th grade level. We've already been giving it for grades 3 through 8, and it's the accountability test. I'm glad it's Aspire and not the actual ACT. We give the ACT the 11th grade, but the Aspire is a good example, a good indicator of what it's going to look like on the ACT when the kids take that in the 11th grade. So again, we want you all targeting the kids' level of thinking on 3s and 4s as often as you can, especially 3. You won't have a level 4 on the Aspire because they can't assess that, and you're going to see why when she explains level 4. But level 3, yes, most definitely. So one of the keys to raising kids' test scores is to get them to think on a higher level, and this includes every subject, every discipline. You can do it with health and science, with PE. You find you guys are pros in your particular field, so you know how to cater the types of questions, even ROTC, to make the kids think on a higher level, but especially the core subject areas.
All right. So any questions about level 3? And I have a sheet that I'll send out to you guys that Lee sent or gave to us during our training, but I found it really helpful for my lesson planning, and it gives you question stems for all of the different levels. So as you're planning your lessons, you can, decide what types of questions, how can I use this type of question, how can I get them to this, because you think about it, it's unfair to our students to not teach them at a level 3 and then expect them to do well on a test that's coming at them with mostly level 3 questions, right? I mean, if you were one of our students, I think we would all feel the same way. So this is just about upping the level.
May I have your attention, please? Teachers, please get out your sign-in sheets to Mr. Griffin here in the office at this time, please. All instructors, please get your sign-in sheets to Mr. Griffin here in the office. Thank you.
No. All right, so quickly, let's go ahead and write a level 3 question on your graphic organizer. So a level 3 question that relates to the concept that you chose on your graphic organizer. What we were trying to do. All right, does everybody have their questions? Did you find it was more difficult to write a level 3 question? Anybody feel that way?
So can you please say it again?
I was saying, did you find it more difficult to write the level 3 question than maybe the level 1 or the level 2?
Yes.
All right, why would it be more difficult? Or complex, I should say.
Yes.
Why do you think it was harder to come up with a level 3 question?
I don't know if it's harder to come up with one or it's harder to think if they can answer it.
Okay, and that's kind of what Ms. Hughes was saying too, was that you're coming up with that question, you're not sure if they can answer it. But does it mean we shouldn't ask it?
No. I think it was
Okay, because
harder.
we want to set that ceiling high for our students, right? So we want them, we
Because
want to
you're
push
looking at
them.
what all
So we
you're
don't-
asking them to do.
It's harder because your role as a teacher changes.
That's true.
And
Explain.
1 and 2, in 1 and 2, you're directing attention, you're teaching them to infer and all this. But by the time you get to 3, you're probing.
Okay.
The teacher's not, you're more of a guide instead of
Exactly.
facilitator.
Exactly. And that, it's kind of the flipped classroom concept, right? You let them start coming up with some of the questions as well. as they're doing an experiment or going through a work of literature or doing a project, right? They start to come up with the questions, and then they start to come up with their own
And it
answers.
helps you with your next period before the next class comes in.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Any questions about level 3? Anything you want to add, Lee?
Now, again, I just think that's a great realization. And that, again, the difference there is who's doing most of the talking? Is either.
Turning her grade.
Until the parents call and want to know why I'm not giving their children the answers to the questions, students are going home.
Well, this is also, there's a re-education of parents that we need to do too.
You're right.
Because, like, I've heard the term old school, parents are probably more of an old school nature too, so we do need to educate them as well.
All right, I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm just gonna say it because I'm old school. Old school worked. Kids performed better in college the old school way than what they performed.
But they got new
at
school
now.
I
Old school work with old school
agree with
parents.
you, because my son's in college, and
I'm
you know
just
what I'm
telling you.
noticing though? College, not all of college, is low-level coursework.
I mean, they're dumbing
Not
it.
everything.
We're dumbing it down, and we're wondering why we're getting behind other countries, and even in Alabama, behind other states. It's because we continue to water it down and change everything. We don't do old school, and then we're doing a lot of stuff in class here that for the kids that want to go to college,
They should have been doing that at home. That was
yeah,
what
I mean, we're not preparing them for college. We're not teaching them the way that they're gonna get it there. And so when they get there, that's why so many are flunking out. And I've got friends that are college professors, and they're saying, we're producing low-level kids because of the way we're doing it.
I disagree. In college, my daughter's she's in her first year.
But
she
yours is
took-
an
But
exception.
she's doing the same thing she did in school, really. I mean, you're getting a book, you're listening to the teacher, and you're,
But it's not
I'm
gonna be
thinking
like that
about
next year.
instruction. I think that some of the instruction in some of the college courses are, it's still lecture, sit and get, and I think that is, to me, that's,
I think
But
they,
it's not gonna be like that
I think it's the
next year.
same philosophy of every teacher, I mean, I hate to say this, teachers, college professors, that then when you get to the next level, they're gonna do something different. And when professors in college think when you get your job, besides being a doctor or something like that, when you get to your next profession, they're gonna train you what they want you to do. They just wanna see if you're disciplined enough to get to school.
guys, when did you really learn how to teach?
When you got it.
You got in the class.
So we're saying
You
apprenticeship
got in
should
the
go there.
classroom, when you did all the finished, hands-on things, you had teachers to talk with, you had discourse, you had experiences, you were able to reflect. You were doing higher level thinking. That's when you learned your craft. Not when you were answering questions at a low level in a classroom. It's when you had to do authentic tasks and you had to work at that level 3. That's when you learned your craft.
And what happens when we're told later that there's no stand and deliver, when that's what they're gonna see in the real world? Then the kids are at a real.
Well, you're talking about college versus when you're talking about,
But are we supposed to get them ready for both?
well, absolutely. But I'm saying you're also talking about all of your career tech teachers who are teaching them hands-on,
Right, and that's
level 3
different.
critical
But
thinking,
for
right? So
real
that's
life.
gonna be real world skills. Now, yes, we can't, I think we can sit here and debate how they teach us at the college level all day, but,
Would you agree that college is a mixture of high level
and low.
and low level?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. If we go in our instruction at a high level, we are killing 3 birds with 1 stone because we're doing all of the levels. That is, to me, that is the big aha, because we don't have a lot of time, let's face it, to do what we consider to be almost sometimes the impossible. We don't have a lot of time. You only have X amount of time in the classroom with those babies, and you up with those babies, those children. And you also don't have control over what goes on before and after the time that you have them. So we have to instruct at a high, we have to instruct at the most efficient level possible. That is at a level 3 and 4, because you are encompassing all of the other ones at one time. That doesn't mean it's more difficult. It doesn't mean it's going to take them longer to do things. You give them more steps. It's the way we question and pose our instructions. The level of thinking that's required.
And on that,
Would this be teaching, instruction, or test? Because I know we're not talking about grades and grading a lot. So could you do level 4 testing? Would that be, or level 3 testing, or this is just all instruction to learn? I mean, thinking. You see what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
because I believe, and I'm not going to, I used to be an administrator, but if you did level 4 testing and all your classes were failing, all your students, they would come back to you and say,
Why is your failure rate so high?
Yes.
but I can understand, you can talk in the class and get on that level 3, but on testing, you might have to come back
I agree.
down.
okay, let's, real quick, because we, have got not a whole lot of time left. Let's look at level 4. So go ahead and flip in your, test article to page, 18 and 19. And go ahead and read the, paragraph at the top, the verbs, the teacher role, and the student role, and highlight or add your notes to your graphic organizer. So level 4, what stood out to you about level 4?
Apply.
I'm sorry?
Apply.
Apply, okay. What else stands out about level 4? Extended thinking, and that's important for level 4 because level 4 is not going to happen in a class period usually. All right, level 4 is usually over an extended period of time. So you're thinking about major projects, experiments, things that you are going to conduct for a more extensive time period. What else stood out? Multifaceted, all right? Many parts. What else? What about the verbs? What were the verbs? Somebody read just a couple of the verbs that maybe stood out to you. And I know it's not about the verb, it's about what comes behind it.
Self-monitor.
Okay, self-monitor. All right, that's a big one. That really takes a lot of complexity to not only complete a project or an experiment, but also to monitor yourself, right? Make sure it's completed. Work with a group. Collaborate, all right?
I think science lends itself to this. We tend to do more level 4 than some subjects.
Well, and that's true because you have so much
collaborative groups and activities.
All right, let's look at possible, well, did I miss anything?
Lisa,
Okay.
pretty much it. It's extended over time.
Extended over time. So look at possible products and activities and highlight or underline which, if any, of these things are you doing in your classroom on a consistent basis?
Formulating testing hypothesis.
That kind of play? They need that kind of play? I thought that's what they told drama play.
This would be level 4 would be tough for math. You know, you could probably word
Multimedia
problems,
product.
do word problems and.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's good because the tone and creative.
All right. What stood out to you guys about products and activities?
Play.
Okay. Play. Okay. What kind of play are we talking about here?
Playing a basketball game.
Okay.
Volleyball game, playing a badminton game, but it's still play.
Hey, no fair.
Okay. It is play.
Can you put together puzzles and do play Clue? Can we do that?
Okay, well, when you're talking, that might lend itself, I think, maybe a little bit more to a level 3, just because a level 4, you're talking about an extended time period, right? So you do hit a lot of the collaboration, thinking,
But now you can have,
days.
you can have them create their own game
How about,
based on
Okay.
the knowledge that you've given them.
how about designing an experiment?
Or designing
That's
a
it.
game
That's
that would
what-
explain for the.
Or just do the lab and take multiple days.
Coming up with their own Jeopardy question.
Exactly, so instead of going to a lab and you have an experiment laid out for you, you design your own.
Instead of me
Right.
creating the Jeopardy game, they can create.
I like that idea.
Or they, or
Take
create
the
a
word
game.
off us.
It's easy.
Exactly.
Create a
Alright, if we
board
taught
game
at a
based
level
on the
4, it would
story.
actually make our job a little bit easier because so much more of it would be the students doing the work,
And
right?
they're learning at
Doing
the same
these,
time.
designing their experiments,
Yeah, that's
carrying them out. What do you think our students can learn from that collaboration? Because this is something that I think is key to a level 4. What are our students learning just out of that extended collaboration? Okay, they're learning communication skills, they're learning
They reinforcing the
team
concept.
building,
Organization.
organization. I'm sorry?
Facilitate.
What did you
Try to
say?
let someone
Do I need to ignore that?
Somebody else
We're gonna strike her answer.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
I think it helps them in social skills for real life though, as far as having to get along with others, work with others of different abilities, because when they get in the real world, they're gonna have to deal with it.
Exactly,
And
so
they're
you
gonna
don't
have to
have
expand
that,
it
I
up.
don't like this person and I can't work with them, right? Because when you get a job, that's not how it works.
Right.
If you're the one he doesn't like, you're the one who's gonna want to
Exactly.
fight.
And Ms. Borders and I can kind of,
Facilitate.
relay from our own experience. We do a documentary project with our students at the end of the year that's kind of a culminating project. It's a month-long, 4-week-long project where basically we flip our classroom. We put our students in groups. They have roles, directors and film editors and storyboard writers and all of those things, and they produce a final product. But they go through all sorts of conflict with group members, with deadlines. It's so much more than just coming up with a documentary about To Kill a Mockingbird or the Great Depression. It is learning those life skills, those real world application skills, and that to me is some of the greatest teaching that I know I've thus far experienced, because I saw my students transform.
They have to adjust their plans over time.
Exactly, they learn to adjust their plans, their timelines. They have to learn how to approach a teacher about an issue or approach a student that they're working with and work through it. It's not just, I quit, I'm not doing it, right? And so that's a level 4 long-term project, which I was excited to find that we had a level 4, because level 4 is hard to do. And Lee, kind of explain to them a little bit more about the level 4 as far as testing goes.
Well, can you test a level 4 on a standardized test? No. Why could you not?
You don't have the time.
How can you put them in collaborative groups on
It's
this?
creativity, it's unique. It's unique to the individual or to the group.
Well, yeah, I mean,
The cell
you
phone
can't do that.
It is definitely a challenge instructionally, and what really tends to happen, because let's just face it, it's hard to do level 4s in a class. It's hard. It's a lot of work.
It's almost like you have to grade all of the level 1, 2, and 3 components of that 4, and then the part that belongs to just the student sings out above everything else. And that's when you find yourself rationalizing, they've done everything else I've asked them to do, the 5 to 7 minutes, the script is immaculate, the production of it as far as the words cited is MLA formatted, all of the things that it took for us to get there. Check, 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 great grades on that. Now the creativity and the unique aspect that is exclusive to that group or to that student then kind of shines above it, and you're just basically grading it based on effort and creativity and how can you, it's like grading someone's poetry. How do you grade that negatively if they've accomplished all of the parameters of the poem?
And you talk of a rubric. Do you use a lot of rubrics, do we?
We're English teachers, I do.
As a guide,
Okay,
yes.
so do your children use rubrics? Okay.
Learning.
Because think about how that, in your life as a successful adult, do you use a rubric in your head to assess things? I mean, you really kind of do if you think about it. You make lists. You deem what those things, where you fall during the day on those things. If I'm going to accomplish a task, the way I accomplish it, or the way we're judged professionally, is some type of a rubric. So it's very valuable to think in terms of us using rubrics, but teaching our children how to use that thought process that's involved in a rubric. The workforce is calling for children who can collaborate, who can solve real-world problems, who have stamina to stick with it. You know, this does not do that. It's easy to put, I mean, let's just face it, these are easy to put through the Scantron and get a grade. They make parents happy because students do well. It's not getting our students where they need to be. We come in at this level, we're doing it, and we're hitting these things.
So you notice up here, like we were just saying, you can't test on standardized testing a level 4, right? But does it mean we don't teach at a level 4?
Well, it's like standard sheet.
Because you, like Ms. Waters was just saying, like she was just saying, you're hitting all those other levels of 1 and 2 and 3, then teach at a level 4 as much as possible. Teach at a level 3 as much as possible, because you are going to embody all of this if you're here. All right, we may not see this on a standardized test, but you'll see the results in all of these other categories if we can. And I say this not preaching to anybody, you know, obviously to myself as well. It's difficult to teach at a level 3 and level 4. After the training, when I do my lesson plans, I'm thinking about these levels. I'm thinking about the assignments I'm giving my students, and sometimes I do feel like, oh, you know, I kind of phoned it in on this one. This is definitely a level 1. You know, how can I make this a level 2? And sometimes it doesn't take much to make it a level 2. If it's a 2, how do I make it a 3? And that's what we want you guys to challenge you with this training.
Those questions on the sheet, I think, helps me a lot too, because not just questions for me about my lesson plans, but I use some of those questions for my students. Just in general, reading comprehension is obviously a level 1. So sometimes I'll skip straight to the three questions, and it gives you the little blank. So it makes it easy for you to plug in whatever it is you're studying, or what your students are covering. But at the same time, then it takes their thought process up during class on a regular basis, just because those are the kinds of questions you keep trying to ask, or you keep trying to put in front of them, and they realize, or you realize they don't, that they're having to use those facts that they've memorized in order to answer that, and then infer, and then put down any kind of results that they would have been asked about, or fill in that blank in your question.
You just gave me a connection. I have to share this, because this is an aha I just had. I have children. I learn more about my children. Well, I can ask my children questions. How was your day? What did you learn? What did you do? Where did you go? How did you feel? I can ask them lots of questions. But if I sit outside the door and listen to the conversation that they're having with their friend on the phone, or listen to, or look at the text message, or whatever, between some collaboration going on, I learn multitude, 10 times more. When I'm listening to an authentic, collaborative conversation, then I can learn asking them question after question after question after question. It's kind of just wrote one level. I don't know really what that has to do with it, but I think it made a big connection to me. It makes sense in the classroom. If I'm listening in on conversation, if I'm providing discourse, I'm gonna learn a lot more about my kids, and they're gonna learn a lot more from each other.
And you know, those level 3 questions really do require them to discuss, because they won't just immediately think about something, but one says one thing, then they get to something else, and then, oh yeah, and then what about a this and a that? It's the same kind of, level 3 just basically, those questions stimulate that dialogue between your students.
I've got to reiterate though, it takes an awful lot of teaching them to actively listen and comment. Because otherwise, what you end up with is just trite.
I agree.
Are there any math teachers in here?
I had the math teachers.
Yeah.
I had them over
Oh,
there.
okay, you had them over there.
Coach Knox left.
All right, let's go back to our graphic organizer and create a level 4 question, okay, for your concept. A level 4 question for your concept.
I want to challenge you to look at your instruction, to look at the way your children are talking, to model how complex thinking sounds and looks. To kind of look at your teaching, your learning that's going on through that lens of complexity instead of difficulty. And realize that our parents right now don't have, I mean, I still have to really tweak my thinking and think, is this complex or is it difficult? Because I think our parents still need education in this as well. Our students, if we still do, I mean, I'm still learning about this. This is like the 3rd or 4th time I've done it. The questions that you pose are wonderful. It tells me that you are productively struggling with this. And this is what we want to do. So I applaud that, and I challenge you to continue to think in that way. That it's not difficult things we want to pose, it's complex. And when we do that, we can streamline our instruction. It helps our pacing. I think about my child when he played All-Stars. I was like, where did you come from? He always played up. When he played with the All-Star group, it was like skills came out that I never saw. And then when he started the season back over again, it was like, where was that person that was hitting like this? So I just challenge you to kind of be thinking about instruction and listening to your children have discourse through this lens of complexity. And continue to question it and ask and think and embed that into your instruction. I thank you for your time today. I know this is the day before you go back into your classrooms, and I appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or Jennifer. And thank you. That's pretty much it.
Thank you.